Welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV. Once more in Valga's Reach, where this starry-eyed Alamegan has something to say. Serenia Shadowstar, hero of the Resistance. Greetings and well met. I wish to thank you for your countless deeds in service to our cause, and share with you an opportunity which I believe may be of interest to you. There's a great and wise man, a veteran of countless battles, who waits for you outside Valga's Reach. Go to him, and he will unfold all. And that is you, this battle-scarred veteran. It is you, the legendary adventurer instrumental in the liberation of our homeland. I, though it took an army to see it through, I have heard tell of your singular accomplishments, both here and in faraway lands. I know the type. You are a warrior through and through, ever searching for a new challenge. A woman who lives for those moments when all hangs in the balance. Did I say something odd? No, of course not. Not far from here is a place where monks of the Fist of Valga once owned body and spirit. The circles of answering, and by the grace of our dormant patron, it is reborn. She who fights with strength of stone unyielding, weaves deep of boundless sky and embraces serenity of rolling sea against her none can stand. To wit, you will first face striking dummies possessed of a fortitude of fantastic fiends and otherworldly foes. Attack them with your might and main, and should you triumph in the allotted time, you will know you have the strength to defeat them. Though you may still die in the process. They are dummies, after all, and will not hit back, but that goes without saying. Doubtless you are intrigued, and curiosity overwhelms you. I shall deliver you to Stone Sky, well, it's still the Circle of Answering in name, but you must nevertheless embrace the wisdom of the elements to overcome your trials. Oh, how foolish of me. I forgot to tell you the best part. It's free. Now have access to the Circles of Answering, an expansion of Stone Sky Sea. This training ground can be accessed by speaking with a battle-scarred veteran outside Valga's Reach. No. Okay, so this was nothing special. It's just a DPS check, basically. Please. Let's continue main quest, no?
Come to see how we're getting on?
Yep.
We've made good progress since we took back Alamigo, but there's one big issue we still have to address. Leadership. The Domans had Lord Hien ready and willing to take the throne, but we've got no one like that here. Theodoric was our last ruler, and he wasn't called the Mad King for nothing.
Suffice it to say, our people have had their fill of kings, which means we need to find a new way forward.
If only it were that easy. Everyone and his uncle has an opinion. For the time being, we're just going to have to keep leaning on General Aldin and the Alliance for support, and see if we can't find a solution together. Something tells me we're going to be hosting a lot of meetings in the near future. But if that's what it takes, I'm ready to talk till my jaw aches. The Reach is yours, Nago. Don't do anything I wouldn't.
Aye, aye, Commander.
Ah, there you are. I've been searching all over for you.
I believe it's the first time you have been voice acted.
Don't worry, it's nothing bad. That said, this might not be the best place to talk. Will you join me?
Sure.
I'll get to the point. Might you be interested in a spot of adventure? After all, we were adventurers before we were Scions, were we not?
True. Let's see it.
After routing the Imperials and liberating Alphinaud, I reckon we've earned a bit of respite, don't you? And what better way to spend it than by returning to our roots? So, what say you? Shall we call on Alphinaud and go adventuring?
Alphinaud as well. Twist my armor, don't you? Couldn't see it all that well, but there was a shit-eating grin on my face. Right then, let's go and find Master Leveilleur. Actually, leave it to me. I want you fresh for our little adventure. Wait for us by the Aetherite and we'll be along shortly. See you there. Greetings, Serenia. It would seem we are to accompany Arenvald on some manner of escapade. Have you any idea what we've gotten ourselves into? Allow me to explain. It'll be something of a history lesson, but I'll try to be brief. No snoring, please. Now, the events I would speak of occurred before the occupation, back when Alphinaud was still a monarchy and Theodoric sat the throne. A uniquely brutal despot by all accounts. That he was. The King of Ruin suffered no rivals, real or imagined, and his dispute with the monks of the Fist ended with Valgar's Reach being burnt to the ground. In the latter years of his rule, he was seized by the unshakable belief that unseen forces were conspiring to steal his crown, and so he ordered that every soul with a claim to the throne be executed, including his own family. The wealth of the poor sots he put to death became the property of a king, and it is said that these royal treasures were hoarded somewhere in the palace. Thus was born the legend of a Mad King's Trove. I believe I see the direction our adventure is to take. I assume you have a mind to unearth this hidden bounty? You assume correctly. And would I also be correct in assuming that this legend is widely known? Others must surely have gone to search for your prize, tempting as it seems. Well, of course we won't be the first to make the attempt. Following Alphinaud's liberation, more than a few eager soldiers turned the palace upside down in hopes of claiming an easy fortune. But even after scouring every room from dawn to dusk, they uncovered not a single coin. Their gold lust drained away as quickly as it come, and the legend of a Mad King's Trove remains simply that. A legend. But I see you have no intention of letting the story end there. What self-respecting adventurer would? Imagine, the three of us, delving into a decade-old mystery. Tell me the thought does not set your heart racing. It does for me. And a boxing mode. Okay. The news of Dormont Alphinaud's liberation has kindled the flames of revolution in every corner of the Empire. I hear the imperial province of Damascus has already risen up in rebellion. Which means the Guardians must surely have their hands full. What better time than now to indulge in such a diversion? Tell us, Arenvald. Have we any clues as to where we might begin our search? Well, judging by how the other treasure hunters fared, nosing about the palace isn't like to get us anywhere, so we'll probably need to, ask around. Would that be another way of saying no? Well, yes. I see. In that case, I shall pay a visit to the Allied archivists and request access to the records seized from the Imperials. The Guardians are meticulous about such things. If they uncovered the Trove during their occupation, the event is certain to have been recorded. In the meantime, the two of you can track down those who worked as palace servants and officials in Theodoric's days. Given that they would have been at least 20 at the time, you would be looking for people who have seen 40 summers or more. Anything they can tell you about the king and his bloody deeds may prove useful, so be sure to listen well. Arenvald, pray try your luck with the fringes and the peaks, while Serenia makes the rounds in the Alamegan quarter. Ha! There I was thinking I was the party leader. Not that I mind, of course. Let's be about it. We can meet afterwards in at Gilbert's Gate. Diabania and the Alamegan quarter has their own etherite. Middle-aged Highlander. A palace? No, not me, lass. Surely you've heard stories of a Mad King used to hold public execution up on the divine audience. Anyone, and I mean anyone suspected of conspiring against the crown, was flung from the top of those steps. Suffice it to say that I stayed as far away from the palace as possible. You want to hear an old maid's stories, do you? Well, most of what I know of a Mad King is common knowledge. We'd only see his royal majesty when he deigned to attend the executions he ordered. And after a while, even watching his enemies die wasn't enough to coax him out of hiding. They say he started seeing assassins in every shadow and wouldn't set foot outside the palace walls. I was offered work there as a royal servant once, but the mere thought of it left me in the cold sweat. I served at the pleasure of King Theodoric and lived to tell the tale. One of Apollo's guards I was. Truth be told, it was a dark chapter in my life and one I'd sooner forget. Hardly a night went by when we didn't hear blood-curdling screams echoing from the inner chambers, which, of course, we were under orders to ignore. So we'd stand still as statues, trying not to imagine what horrors were unfolding within. If you're hell-bent on finding out what happened in the palace, head down the street here and ask old Arnold. He was the king's head scribe. Yes, I'm Arnold. What do you want with me? You would have me dredge up some decidedly unsavory memories. Yet, if Alamigo is to move forward, we must needs acknowledge the misdeeds of the past. Very well, I shall tell you what I remember. I take it you know of Theodoric's paranoia and the public execution of his kinsmen? Those were terrible enough. But in his last days, the king's fevered mind set upon an even grislier method of disposal, which only chosen few were unfortunate enough to witness. His Majesty ordered the Kurthaumatorch to unleash a vile curse upon the remaining members of the royal family. A magic which transformed them into fiends of hideous aspect. The resulting monstrosities were then cast into the darkness below the palace. Even now my sleep is troubled by nightmares. If others of Theodoric's blood were prone to share his madness, then perhaps it's a kindness that the monarchy ended with him. Okay, Alphinaud, any success? Excellent timing as ever. We have but this moment returned from our own intelligence gathering effort. Since we're all here, why don't we share what we've learned? Allow me to begin. As promised, I scoured the Imperial records of any mention of fantastic treasures, and found precisely none. It's just possible, I suppose, that a corrupt official deliberately hid the fact of a Trove's discovery, hoping to enrich himself, but I find it rather unlikely that so valuable find would stay a secret for long. I conclude that our prize either does not exist, or that the Imperials somehow overlooked it. What of you, Serenia? Were your investigations more fruitful? Turned into monsters? And what could you mean by this darkness beneath a palace, I wonder? I met an old Alamegan who spoke of the palace subterranean prison, but he said naught of cursed abominations. The Imperial archives were also silent on the subject of fiends inside the palace grounds. Could the scribe fellow have been spinning her a yarn, do you think? Did you believe him, Serenia? His fears seem genuine. If he was afraid, then that does lend credence to the tale, but I'm not sure how that helps us in our search. Do not be so hasty. A note's anecdote may very well have told us where the Trove is hidden, but ere I share my theory, there's a matter I would clarify. Arenvald, you spoke of light-hearted adventures, but I sense a deeper motive for this expedition. Why are you so intent on finding this treasure? It wasn't all pretense, I swear, but you're right. My father was in the Imperial Army, a man of Gallian blood. I trust you know what I mean when I say that my Alamegan mother did not welcome my arrival. As I grew, she would check my brow over and over, convinced that a spot on my skin was an emerging third eye, like a kind you see in pureblood Gallians. My mother did not care for this daunting reminder of my heritage, and took up a knife. War paint serves to cover the scar. In the end, she turned me out into the street, and was left to haunt the alleyways of Alamigo. Feral child who got what he needed through begging, cunning, or worse. The best I can say about the years that followed is that I survived. But I hated the animal I'd become. Eventually I left the city behind me and joined a group of refugees bound for the other side of the wall. It was then that I turned to adventuring, and the road led me into the company of the Scions. I tell you this so that you understand. I know all too well what poverty and hunger can do to a person. I drew steel on ordinary folk for a measly crust of bread. With Theodoric's gold I could spare my countrymen the shame of living like that. Thank you, Arenvald, and I apologize. That cannot have been pleasant to recall, but I felt it best to be clear on our intentions. Well, Serenia, are you content to surrender the treasure to Arenvald's noble cause and claim the thrill of adventure as your reward? Then I should be glad to tell you my theory on the resting place of a Mad King's Trove, if you're minded to hear it. Actually, mayhap it would be better if I first adjourn to a more suitable location. In that case, a rival treasure hunter overhears our plans, you mean? Good thinking. That was not exactly the reason, but 'tis certainly a valid concern. Let us reconvene at the southern edge of Loch Seld. Come now, Alphinaud. Don't leave us in suspense. Let's hear this theory of yours. Forgive me, it was not my intention to draw out proceedings. I simply wished to have the logs in sight while I explained things. Prior to the great flood of the Sixth Umbral Calamity, the salt lakes you see before you were yet dry ravines, and this, believe it or not, was the site of the ancient city of Scala, which rose and fell during the 5th Astral Era. From what we know of the period, the city was already deserted by the time the waters began to rise, having been all but destroyed by war, yet its ruins remain to this day at the bottom of Loch Selt. It's my belief that the darkness beneath the palace mentioned by Theodoric's former scribe was not a reference to a prison, but to a place still further below, the ruins of Scala. I further surmise that the Mad King's unfortunate kinsmen were cast down there not simply out of a desire to punish them, but to discourage exploration. Theodoric wanted to keep the ruins secure. Wait, you're saying they were meant to guard the Mad King's Trove? Precisely, and since we know the court thaumaturge was involved, we can safely assume that any entrance into the old city will have been magically concealed. Which would explain how a legion of Imperial soldiers and the gods knows how many Alamegans never found a trace of a Trove. We, however, have certain advantages which they do not enjoy. Serenia, would you be so good as to swim down to the bottom of a log and search for an underwater route into the ruins? While you do that, Arenvald and I will seek out an ensorcelled portal within the palace. Because of a cogent blessing that lets me breathe underwater. What are these star shapes here? Or snow crystals, or... Ah, come on. You discover a passage that appears to lead under the palace foundations. Press on and find out where it goes. Was supposed to be bioluminescent plants or algae? You've come to a worn stone door, standing temptingly ajar. It would appear you have found an entrance to the subterranean ruins. Serenia, this is Alphinaud. We have searched the prison beneath the palace and found a door concealed by enchantments. Have you aught to report? And you believe it leads into the ruins? Excellent. Then I propose to proceed from our respective entry points and look to meet somewhere in the middle. Oh, come on, you two. We might as well make it a race. Victory goes to the first adventure to find the treasure. Godspeed. A dungeon. Is not what I expected, but okay. The drowned city of Scala. You know what? I think I just end the episode here and next time we meet each other again. Until then, I'm Mace and don't get lost.